Alright, so welcome to Lightroom. So this is going to be video number 2, and this is going to be, automating or doing batch processing within Lightroom. Now, this is a little bit more streamlined in Lightroom. Just a couple disclaimers. I import everything through Photo Mechanic just so I keep that consistency. So I didn't go through the import process here. I've just loaded the images in, and there's a reason that I just do that for me. Otherwise I'll get confused and won't be able to find something. So I've got the images here in Lightroom, so I'm going to show you this. This is actually Lightroom's best function is their export function. I've also loaded the JPEG Mini extension file in here, so I will be getting that JPEG Mini compression. The downfall here is I was kind of a moron and didn't put a background in the back of my light tent, so it's got, like, you can see like a tag in the bottom of the tent there. I'll probably either have to clone that out or do something. But no matter what, here we go. I'm going to show you how to do this. This is actually a great function within Lightroom. So I'm going to select this image, and the first thing I'm going to do is switch on over to the develop module. Alright, so I've got this image, and so one great function that we have within this program is the ability to synchronize settings. So I can come in here and do an auto white balance, or I can do whatever I want, even though I think as shot looks pretty good. I can control some of my development settings. Now you have these little clicks here. They're like large adjustments usually. You can see they really do affect the image a lot. So you have tint, exposure, so maybe I can bump up my shadows a bit. I tend to like to tone a little bit flat. I can bump up my exposure as well. So these are my image, and just so you know, because this value in this here and this is about the same, this is a vertical image, and so when I'm doing that exposure, don't expect this to change. So I'm going to go back down because I actually like it there. So anything I want to do, so if I want to apply those settings now, I can just go ahead and shift click and then hit sync settings, not sync settings. And now when I hit synchronize, anything that I have selected as far as basic tone values, I can easily synchronize. And so I have that, and I can now apply all those settings to every single image. Because this was shot with actual studio lights versus the hot lights that I used before, everything is fairly consistent. So once I've kind of got my base exposure done, I can just go ahead and apply that to everything that I've shot, and it should work. Occasionally you might get some really silver stuff that looks a little bit different. So, but for right now, we're going to go with that. So I'm going to come out here and just click this image, and then we're going to switch on over to the develop module itself. So here's where I can come in and sort of individually tone those images. So the first thing I'm going to do is hit the crop. So I've got a 2:3 aspect ratio. So I'm going to be holding the shift and the alt key when I do this, and this is going to keep it in the center, and it's also going to keep that same aspect ratio, because when I put this on a website, I'm going to need it to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit return, and there we are. We have the jewelry image here. So that looks pretty good. So now I can kind of go in here and tone. So I think I'm just going to bump up my exposure a bit. One of the tricks is you have to remember when you're toning an image in RAW, you have like thousands and thousands of shades of gray. When you go to the web, it's going to dumb down to 256 shades of gray, and only very specific colors. The color palette actually, oh yeah, I do have an image, so we'll open this up. If you click on this, notice it has web colors. These are very specific. These are the colors available for web. So if your color in your image is not one of them, it's going to shift over to one of these. Okay, we'll go back. So a lot of times when I tone for the web, I tone a little bit brighter than I normally would. So we're going to open this image up quite a bit. And that looks pretty good. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just going to be something for someone on the web to view to see what this looks like. So that looks pretty good to me. So I think we're going to be okay with that. And we're going to go ahead and export this image. So we're going to go up to File, Export. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create an export today just for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this in a subfolder. So this is going to go into the same folder as the original. So the images, the folder that contains these images, this folder is going to go inside that. And I'm just going to call this toned. So I'm going to scroll down here. Notice I've got JPEG. That's what we want to go at. sRGB. Why? Well, because the web is sRGB. Long edge, meaning whether it's vertical or horizontal. We are going to make that 1,000 pixels. Resolution doesn't matter when you do pixels. Only for inches in printing. So don't worry about resolution. And sharpened for screen. So watermark, it's going to have the wrong one. So I'm going to have to put this. I've never set this up for metal design, so we'll go ahead and do that. So we'll put edit watermarks. And I'm pretty sure I have this up and available. So we will slide down here or slide up here, graphic, and hit choose. Okay, so you can see here's that watermark, and it's down here on the bottom. That looks good. It doesn't look like I'll need to change that at all. I'll go ahead and hit save, and I'm going to call this one Metal Design. So now that will automatically be saved, and I won't have to set that up anymore. And because we're going to save this as a preset, none of this is going to change. So you'll notice right here I've got JPEG Mini set up, and it says optimization is fully automatic, meaning there's not it realizes that it's here. I don't need to do anything. It's automatically going to utilize JPEG Mini when I save this image. So we're good. So I'm going to add one. So I'm going to hit add, and I'm going to call this Metal Design, and I'm going to put 1000p, and that way I know it's 1,000 pixels. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create and then export, and you'll see it come up here, process that file. So if we come down to where that is saved, date modified, toned, and there we go. We'll just go ahead and throw that into Photoshop. It's asking me, I don't want to convert it. This is to switch the color profile. So there's our image. It's sized, it's ready to go, and that's what it's going to look like. So that's wonderful. So that's cool. So we'll go ahead and go back to Lightroom. So now what I'm going to do is, this is the front and the back of the image. So Damascus steel has a front and a back. The designs look totally different. So what we're going to do is grab this image and then click on this one and click on this one, and I'm going to hit sync. So it's going to sync anything that I tell it to. Now I don't want it to sync the crop over here, because the crop is going to slightly be different from each one of these. So I'm going to go ahead and hit synchronize, and it's going to apply the tone that I just did here to there. So before, where I applied it, normally I use the develop module to sync settings, and it's a really easy reason, just because you have a little bit more control. It's kind of like a basic adjustment settings to kind of get it in the right place. But to be more exact, it definitely works better here. So then I'll click on that crop, and we will crop this image. Hopefully I got enough here on the right and I'm not picking that up. Yeah, that looks good. So then we'll come over to this image. Really all we got to do now is crop. So you could automate the crop if I would, I did use a tripod, but this stuff moves around and I'm pretty picky as far as getting crops exactly how I want them to be. Probably should make sure this is moved up a little bit so I do have room for that logo. I do that occasionally. That is, when you, in Photoshop, you just click on it again and it actually comes up, but Lightroom I have to actually click on the crop button for it to work. So that's pretty good. So we'll click over here. I'm just going to select both of these images, and now we're going to come up here to File, Export with Preset, because we've already set that up, and then we're just looking for Metal Design 1000p. And it's automatically sending those files. I don't have to go through that process. It's already set up. I'm good to go. So once again, if I go to those, there's those files. So I'm ready to go. So you can see it's a little bit more streamlined. Now you don't have the ability like in Photoshop, like if I did want to clone this little white thing out in the background, or I wanted to affect it, or I wanted to change the way things look a little bit, which I probably still will. I think I'll increase my black and increase my whites a little bit when I do this image. So hopefully that's helpful. You learn how to automate or batch process within Lightroom using JPEG Mini and an export function. So thanks for watching. Any comments or questions, you can leave those below, and don't forget to subscribe.